experiencer Arcturus Ra speaks. How do I explain this? It might sound strange or might feel weird. Is also, it ridicules a lot of conspiracy theoretics that are out there. Let me share this with you. It was, as I can remember, must have been 2010. I got the year right. And we went to Mount Shasta. We hiked over Mount Shasta. And I wanted to share with you the following things that happened. So also for non-believers, or put it this way, the people that hate or want to downgrade a video by vote, is you're being observed by your vote, because your vote expresses actually the level of conscience that you are. So it makes actually no sense to give a negative vote, because you haven't been most likely to that place that I'm about to describe. Mount Shasta is actually a portal where you can walk in and out of Earth. There are pockets up there where you disappear. At times, rangers told us that they lose up to 12 people a year up there. So I don't know if that's a statistic or if that's ongoing, but 12 people and finding no bodies in a region that can be covered by choppers is kind of interesting and intense. So I will go back there and will investigate actually where I've left off. So here's how the weirdness began for me as I walked up there with my friends. Is I don't know if it was altitude sickness or hypoxia. I tried to prevent from getting that, so I took aspirin, which I realized later on is not good for me in my stomach because it's very acidic, and it got my stomach very upset. Little did I know that type O negative is actually made for heights. We are designed for heights, or underwater, or inner Earth, not for lower altitudes. We're not designed for that. So I stopped taking the aspirin, and then I got actually clear. So that was a mistake walking in there, not knowing how to climb rocks anyway. So as I'm walking into the rocks, I'm being downloaded with knowledge of how to walk the rocks. So I wasn't a professional climber nor a hiker, but knowledge templates came in of what to do. And I was, to my amazement, surprised that my muscle groups that were actually not trained to hike certainly recalibrated to a point, and I have to thank my ancestors for, I'm assuming here, the cell memory. These are the explanations that I download when I ask these questions. I get these knowledge packages, and then I know these things, so I'm just giving you as it came in. So I'm on this rock. We are activating portals and vortexes, recalibrating the energy in and around the mountain as per download. I'm closing my eyes and I feel a Sasquatch tracking us. This big dude walking, big hairy dude, and I say to my friends, like, I think there's a dude either leading us or tracking us. And you know, to say that you feel that with your mind's eye, that's one thing. But then you find the footprint that's kind of like this big and 4 toes. I didn't take any pictures there because we were so in awe, we were so overwhelmed that we weren't thinking about taking any pictures, which would have blown your mind. Next time I'll have my camera ready and more of my consciousness together, because when you walk into these realms in and off Earth, when you can say dimensions shimmer, and this is all how I got it in, and it sounds like a science fiction. I don't have this from books. This is my experience. I've seen the footprints coming out of nowhere, so I know the guy walked in from another parallel world, and they're like 30 yards, and then they stop in midfield into nowhere, where there should be footprints, you know, leading on further up the hill, because the ground had the same type of consistency to leave footprints. The dude must have been at least 12 foot tall, between 12 and 15, because the footprints were like heavily indented in the ground. So I'm assuming, by what I know, that the guy was very heavy. I felt it was a he. And the footprints come out of nowhere and end into nowhere. Like just there's a print, and then that's it. So I think he walked in and out, and they have the capacity to do that. And I think we used to have the capacity, but we forgot about that capacity as our consciousness fell. So this can lead into a whole nother other pocket. So I continually walked And I was told 2 weeks before I walked that walk in dream state, when I was in Berlin in my bed in Germany, you will cross worlds. There's nothing to worry. You will cross worlds. Well, we did. That at some point I lost the tree line, and I don't know if you walk up the summit, I don't know how that's even possible. Like, you can you imagine physically you walking up a mountain, the tree line, you turn around, the sky is blue, the tree line is there, it'll forever be there. But at some point I heard voices, I felt dizzy, it just felt like a freaking mushroom trip, yeah. And I was in and out of myself. I didn't know exactly where I was. I lost orientation. I asked, why am I losing orientation? The download came in is that your brain is losing the electromagnetic reference frequency of regular 3D Earth. That's why it's confusing, because you're not trained for that. As in a diver that dives into a depth that he's not trained for, and he has to find his way, what is up, what is down, what is sideways. Very difficult for me, especially when you see elementals peeping through the grass, elves, you hear whispers, you hear angels singing, you see weird objects, like tiny objects like this, looking like probes, flying past by you as if you're being scanned. You're in a whole nother other realm. So I felt like we were in an in-between realm. I also felt like this is the realm where most people either lose their mind or stop walking or die. I felt like death being close, as in, when you die, you leave that dimension, but you can also walk out of this dimension when you know where the fields are. Well, some fields are out there, hence Mount Shasta and many, many, many more. But stay with Mount Shasta. So I walked into this confused mind state where other tourists turn around because they have vertigo and they want to return from the mountain and go back and say, I'm not going further up. I'm panicking. I had a little anxiety attack, but I breathed it out and realized these must be symptoms from, I don't know, either trap mechanisms or booby traps to keep me in 3D or have me turn around, or something wants to not go into an uncomfortable situation. Well, I went into a full-blown uncomfortable situation. Very clear. All of a sudden my mind cleared up and I realized I have kind of like something like super senses, but not like I can move objects yet. It's very faint, very, very, very soft. That's how it's coming in. So I had this big bright light shining in front of me, like hovering in front of my third eye. My third eye was like I was on fire, like as if somebody put some pepper spray or some acid on my third eye here. It was burning. So I felt like, okay, I'm using my third eye because I've never actually used it properly. When I closed my eyes, I would still see. So like closing the lids wouldn't stop the picture would continue, and it would go fractals, geometries. I would see the craziest photonic imprints coming from the sun. So I'm like, okay, well, we must be either in a thin veil or elsewhere. So then I turned around after a long march a day and taking a break. The sky was no longer blue. It was kind of like opalesque purplish, or I don't know what's the correct term, purple opalesque. And I couldn't see the tree line. Like the tree line was gone. It was like I'm looking into an ocean or a sea of this turquoise area that would spread around the mountain. And I'm like, whoa, we are not on Earth anymore. I don't know where we are. I wanted it to communicate to the others, but I was told, let everybody be where they are. They need to make the experience from where they are. So I don't know if my 3 other partners shared the same vision back then that I had, walking that. And then we walked to a chasm, or like a canyon type situation, and I remember exactly, because I have photographic memory, where that is. And we saw an ancient city, and I'm like, I was surprised that looks like Shangri-La or some Indian ruins in the Shasta Mountains. But then I realized they must be interdimensional, because it was like a holographic structure hovering over the remnants of a rock, what seemed to be a rock, but it actually wasn't a rock. So I saw cave entrances perfectly formed with like round. I stepped over pieces of ruins that I don't know if they are in this dimension. Well, next time I'm trying to really take a camera. Also tip, if you go into other dimensions with your camera, I'm using my holograms. I downloaded the holograms on Mount Shasta, the holo shields. You put these holograms on your camera that you want to document this, and you bless it, and you form the intent in all holiness that you're walking into a blessed dimension where the projections of the average human race does not work. and then you're allowed to take pictures, because if your stuff is unholy and most of the technology doesn't have a blessing behind it or the intent, they shut it down. It doesn't work in these dimensions. So photonically, they're going to be elevated. Also, you have to align that system, and you have to do that with your consciousness. So that's training. And when a ship comes, you don't have to do this with your camera. Actually, I've recorded the light ship from the campground, which is on my YouTube channel. It's called Arcturian Light Ships, and I deadpanned my camera on that, and I did not jitter or move. If I had a better lens for pickup, I would have it closer. You see the ship coming from the mountain. It stops, and then these little red ships all park around it, and they all how do you say, turn their lights on. It's like a light show, and I've recorded the light show without any disturbance. So when you're conscious and you're aware, trust me, you will get the real image. It's the real deal. Your hair will stand up, your chakras will be aligned. Like I said, when they come, you don't want to eat. You don't want to eat for 4 days. You drink some water and you're fine, because all your systems, your light body, your energetic, your ether, your magnetic body, your emotional body, everything gets aligned, because the frequency that these interdimensional craft that I have witnessed, would seem to be Arcturian, are running on love. The zero field, unprojected negativity can't even exist there. It just fades. And if you have witnessed that, your mind changes, your life changes, like on a mushroom trip when done right, and you are recalibrated to actually the original you. So story continues. It gets more fantastic. Then I'm sitting by the fireplace. My friend sees my higher self behind me, looking like an astronaut, like 15 foot tall, in this armory and a helmet, and how my higher self is basically recalibrating my vessel, as in the smaller version, and beaming energy into the chakras and fixing me and recalibrating me. I thought my feet were done. I thought I had blisters. I mean, my feet were in pain. And I didn't open the shoes to look, and I thought like my feet are going to be wrecked after this hike. But in the morning after I slept, I felt like I was completely repaired. So we have interdimensional assistance, I guarantee you. After 2 days, we had rescue choppers looking for us. We ran out of food, and that changes everything. I'm telling you, that changes everything that you've ever known. So there are places out there, if you want to find and investigate, go. Be smart, be wise, stay within the law, and do the good and the nice things, and you will experience fantastic things. And leave yourself open. Also, leave yourself open. I mean, I had a girl standing in front of me, said somebody's pulling her finger, and I can see her hand doing this, like as if somebody's pulling on her finger. So a little being touched her hand and was pulling a little bit. We just couldn't see the being, but we could see the physical effect on the vessel that was still anchored in 3D. Lots have happened. I can write a book on my Mount Shasta experience. That was the chapter on the mountain. When we walked down the mountain, it's like I had a visor type thing coming in that showed me the path down the mountain. I didn't know the path. We were off trail. We were somewhere on the mountain, all the way up top. And I saw this glowing light, like beaming down this way. And it was a log road that we found, because my higher self actually, or my higher input, showed me where that was without me knowing that. And all of a sudden I was knowledgeable. I had an entire download of how to hike, how to listen to rocks, what trails to follow, what trails to not follow. After that hike, I was basically primed for Sedona. And since ever then, I've been hiking. This is 6 years now. And I feel my hikeways. I'm being called to places. They call me, and I sit and wait. And they make contact. Where you have missing time and all the other stuff, which will be explained in another video. So the story continues, and it goes more fantastic, and I hope the tape holds, is this. We were sitting at the campfire, Panther Meadows, the place. I love that place, which is the gateway, I believe. So we were like, let me see. Let me see. Me, J, H, E. We were 6 people, and all of a sudden we had the urge to walk up the mountain. It's like, I have this idea. I mean, we were already triggered by the craft. They already called us, and they can do this, and very, very fine. And let me explain to you the superiority of these interdimensional travelers, where military actually can't even go there. Not even chase. So We were called up the rock to a place and wait. One group split. One dude wanted to go the other way, but eventually he was called too, and we all we split into 3 groups. Yeah, I want to go here, I want to go here. The other one wanted to run, and we split into 3. We were all called back to one area, and we waited. Then we heard this sound, kind of like a phase shifting sound, like multiple sounds into one, but it is an unearthly sound. It's like, if I would have to mimic that, it would be like a, and that, like, imagine that on 24 tracks, phase shifted, and you would hear that. The grass would kind of move in a strange way, like it would kind of like oscillate. The plants and the trees, everything would react to that sound. It gives me goosebumps talking about it. And then we saw this craft way across the valley coming from the sky out of the cloak of a cloud, and it was kind of like, and then it was kind of like, and it hovered towards us. And I don't know, it was 50 feet, maybe 40 feet, like very close over us. They stopped and parked. And then it's kind of like their mind melted with our minds. And I said, well, I can't see anything. Where are you? And they said, well, we are right in front of you. We are here. I said, why is it that I can't see you? And they said, well, open your heart a little more and then you can see us. So I believe we were already in the craft. But here's the thing, what I also saw, a little insect that looked like nanotechnology to me, not like an insect that I've ever seen before. And I said, is that a camera? And then the reply was like, yes. And I said, could you please remove your camera? Well, they removed it because it was on my friend's knee, and it made her uncomfortable. So they moved it to a rock and they watched us up close. So we were monitored. But they must have also been our family. So we were euphoria, we were in peace. We didn't have missing time. Like, I don't know how they did that, how they worked with us. You have to understand, when they make contact from other dimensional areas, they have to meet us at the level of where our consciousness is. It's a very, very technological and complicated thing. So designing it so we can accept that, because we're not trained to accept that yet. So also getting all our brains into one situation where all 6 members have made the same experience and saw the same craft. The craft, I will put a picture up, was kind of like silvery, see-through, hovering over us, over the trees. So I will get a picture of Mount Shasta and kind of like simulate from what I remember, because I had no camera with me then. When it wasn't about a camera, it was about the experience. And it was almost like a religious experience, but we were full of joy, tears of joy. Yes, of course, we wanted to go home to our home planets. We all felt that. But they said the mission is here, and the mission is more important that we can actually imagine, as Earth is in connection with is another story that can branch off into 356 Confederate planets that are in an evolutionary stage that depend on Earth's ascension. And we're here to help to ascend that planet. And it sounds more science fiction than you can believe, but the reality is more fantastic than the reality they project on regular TV to you. So the craft hovered over us, they observed us, they communicated us, and then they gave us downloads, meaning like we were told to close our eyes, and then kind of like this happened. And as this kind of like frontal lobe activity, back lobe activity took place, we saw all types of geometry being downloaded into us. So I think we've got upgrades there. So they communicated with us. Then it's kind of like when the craft disappears, it's like somebody turns the light off. The craft was like, and it was gone. And we were like, did you see that? You know, even when the craft was there, everybody was like, you're seeing that? Like, we felt like this is too good to be true anyway. So the craft disappeared. They turned the lights off. And then we can say, could you do us a favor and turn your lights back on so we can see you? And they did it like, I don't know, 20 miles across to the other rocks across Mount Shasta. You can see the mountain. And then way, way, way in the back of the mountain, the silvery craft turned the light back on, and you saw a shimmery, bright disc that was now even bigger, so it seemed, hovering between the 2 mountains. And kind of like you could still hear in the distance, like as it kind of like went between the 2 rocks, and then it took off shot in this, it's like a blimp in and blimp out of existence. And let me explain to you why we cannot understand the way these crafts move. Has to do with their interdimensional craft. They're also in part temporal craft. Yes, we have no physical proof yet that will come in. These are the downloads that I'm receiving. You just have to go by what the resonance is that I'm saying, and I'm coherent and I'm not insane, and I know what I saw and all the others. And many will see that even more than you know will come into that knowledge. So a temporal craft means they can go from timeline to timeline. They can dial into time, dilate time. So they are time pockets, like time and gravity. We haven't even began to understand what gravity and time actually means. Also, we have never looked at the nuclear reservoir of an atom. That leans close to the zero field without destroying atoms to create fission or fusion reaction, which is actually destroying literally little suns of conscious entities that we are destroying and disembodying, creating duality. In the future world, that is not even a possibility, not even close. So temporal jumps, meaning they can come from a timeline 100,000 years in the future and they can jump into a parallel coordinate. But also when they do that, they kind of, like, you can say, dilate time, dilute time in a divine way. There are protocols. This is highly monitored. You cannot just jump around. It was crazy between the 80s and before 2012 with the jumping in and outs and breaking protocols. Now this is highly being watched by councils, as in futuristic humans, that make sure that the timelines actually meet the appropriate and divine time adjustment. So back to Shasta, is that craft disappeared that day. We were all happy. We got our downloads, and they said this is not the last time we will contact you, and physical contact is possible, but there's a part that we must do. Also, this is the download that I have received to build a physical platform that is highly dimensionally charged, that enables the ships to make contact. So the highly dimensional charge that I'm working with is what is within the Gamatron key, which is the nanospherical quartz sand. If the quartz sand is nanospherical, you have more reflective, refractive, and light capacity and projection area of light that is stored in an isotope within a crystal, and that's the nanospherical quartz sand. Why these keys emanate so high and so highly charged, which I call Gamatron keys, you find that in my Etsy store. Etsy store is called Arcturian Council, is because they are charged to a degree of 10 to the 23rd. Now here's the point where we make interdimensional and extraterrestrial and other dimensional technology actually physical and attainable, and work with you to align your body to that frequency. That is why I'm creating these devices. You can see in the back here I have other light platforms, a light emanation, a cube, a little charger, a plate, to actually soon in my Etsy store, still in the works. It's all experimental. I can show you real quick. You can see the beauty of these things. These are certain mirror aspects I put together. These rose quartz, clear quartz, jade, and jasper to activate something. This is like a program download plate for those who want to work with. You want to receive downloads in your dream. This is a prototype, difficult to build, difficult to keep in shape. Shipping it, sometimes they destroy my stuff. So I'm still working on how to stabilize that and make it safe that it can reach you. So many downloads are possible. I know that I am Arcturian. I know that my assisting crew are the Essassani. I've seen a mantid once. Zetas, I think they hover in and out, but I've never seen a Zeta. All I've seen is Essassani. I've seen my hybrid children. I know I have 38 by now, I think. I knew that before Bashar announced that. So there's many things as I experience while I'm in my home, and this is the beginning stage of a shared experience of a grand spectrum of Mount Shasta. More to come in my other Experiencer Speaks files. I love you very much.